So are you thinking about a move to Richmond? Are you wondering what it's like and how safe it is to actually live in this town? Well, stay tuned, because today we are going to uncover the truth about crime and safety here in Richmond and all you need to know before making your move. I'm Greg Somerville, a real estate agent here in Richmond, Virginia. My goal for this channel is to cover everything you might need to know about living in this vibrant city. If you find it helpful, don't forget to hit the like or subscribe. And if you're thinking about a move to Richmond, be sure to request a free copy of my Richmond home buying guide. You'll find the link in the description below. In today's video, we're going to look at the issue of safety on 3 levels. We'll start at 50,000 feet with some general guidelines for thinking about safety. Then we'll drop down to 10,000 feet with some important facts and falsehoods about crime levels in Richmond. We'll end at ground level by looking at the important question, how do I know that I'm going to choose a safe neighborhood? Safety, or at least the feeling of safety, is pretty subjective, isn't it? Some people feel safe in the woods. Others are terrified of bears. Some feel safe in the city. Others, like those of us who grew up in the hills of West Virginia, don't. Generally speaking, the more familiar you are with a place, the safer you feel. Relying solely on per capita crime rates can be misleading. You really have to dig into the data to get the full picture. In a place like Metro Richmond, the stats can change dramatically from neighborhood to neighborhood. Each of the counties surrounding Richmond, Chesterfield, Goochland, Hanover, Henrico, and New Kent, has its own set of crime stats. Also, the stats typically distinguish between violent crimes like murder and assault and property crimes like robbery or carjacking. One more high-level point. Safety is just one of the factors to consider when buying a home. There are a lot of other important factors like price, square footage, layout, schools, neighborhood amenities, and others. You're probably not going to find a house that scores a perfect 10 out of 10 in all categories. So my advice is to look hard at safety, think about where it ranks compared to the other factors, and then select accordingly. Let's drop down to 10,000 feet and see how Richmond compares to other cities in terms of overall crime. Have you seen the list of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the U.S.? Well, I'm glad to say Richmond isn't on that list, but Baltimore is. It's number 4. Home of the Baltimore Orioles, Baltimore Ravens, the Johns Hopkins University, the Inner Harbor. Like every city, it offers both beauty and ugliness, crime and safety, side by side. I've come across 3 common misconceptions about safety here in Richmond. The first is that the crime rate in Richmond is higher than the average US rate. One website even said it was 63% higher, but that was taken from 2022, and the stats change every year. Also, that was based on total crime. Richmond's stats for violent crime are actually 3% lower than the US average. Most of the US is rural, and it's a documented fact that crime rates are going to be higher in urban areas than in rural areas. It's important to compare Richmond with cities of similar size. Now, it's true that Charleston, South Carolina has a crime rate 34% lower than ours, but Orlando, Florida has a crime rate that's 41% higher. Do you think that keeps families from taking their kids to visit Disney? I don't think so. You may have heard that Richmond has the highest crime rate of any city in Virginia. Well, that's been true in the past. In fact, in the 1990s, it was considered the murder capital of the country. But last year, it didn't even make the top 10. And Virginia is currently the 8th safest state in the entire country. A third common misconception is that the crime rates apply to the entire Metro Richmond area. Well, that's not true. Crime really varies from neighborhood to neighborhood. And in an urban area, crime tends to be hyper-localized and can differ significantly even from block to block. Sorry to interrupt, but we gotta pause just long enough to state the obvious. We're talking about really important stuff here, and one video is certainly not going to answer all of your questions about crime and safety in Richmond. So my number's on the screen. If you have follow-up questions or comments, text or call me at any time. I'd be glad to help you get those questions answered. With that said, let's get back to the video. Because crime control is a constantly moving target, it's important to look at how the safety landscape has evolved here in Richmond over the past several years. Our new city police chief, Rick Edwards, was appointed in 2023. A few weeks ago, he gave his annual briefing on the state of crime in Richmond, and the news was very encouraging. Last year, violent crime was well below its 10-year average. The homicide rate dropped 18%, its lowest level since 2018. Commercial robberies dropped by 20%, and individual robberies fell by 4%. The number of property crimes also fell last year, though commercial burglaries and shoplifting both rose. The city's not satisfied with the status quo. It's got numerous initiatives in place to improve safety here in Richmond. Last spring, there was a really sad outbreak of violence among teens over a 3-week period. Several were shot and killed. In response to that, Chief Edwards instituted Operation Safe Summer, imposed an 11 p.m. curfew on teens, and even gave free gun safes to families to store firearms. The police department has increased its presence in 21 hotspots around the city where a lot of crimes have occurred. They've given out free steering wheel locks. They've put up a number of traffic cameras around school zones. And finally, they've engaged in community walks where police officers go through a neighborhood, listening to and engaging with community members to understand their concerns and their needs. As we wrap up this section, I just want to acknowledge every crime matters. Every crime hurts. But it's great to see the numbers moving in the right direction. Well, now we've reached ground level with the really personal question, where are the safest neighborhoods in Richmond? Well, real estate ethics makes it difficult to answer that question directly. Fair housing laws state that a real estate agent can't tell a client what is a safe neighborhood and what's not. There's just too much room for bias. One person's safe is another person's scary. What I can do, though, is share some tried and true best practices. Start by visiting the neighborhood that you're thinking about purchasing in. Visit in the morning, afternoon, evening, hang out there. What do you see? How does it feel? While there, talk to the neighbors. Ask them about their experience. And then take advantage of the widely available online tools for researching crime stats in a particular neighborhood. You can use the Richmond Police Department's Crime Incident Information Center, Spot Crime, crimegrade.org, or county websites. In the description below, you can request a free copy of my Richmond Home Buying Guide, which includes links to each of the county websites. Let me close with a few final thoughts. I live within the Richmond city limits. Once a month, a police lieutenant for our district comes to our neighborhood association meeting and gives us an update on all the crime that's taken place in the last 28 days. Most nights he tells us the same thing: keep your car doors locked and keep your valuables out of sight. But sometimes there are bigger issues. And the fact is, stuff happens in the city, but stuff happens in the country as well. My oldest son has a farmstead about 50 minutes from my house. Every time after I visit, I have to do a tick check because any of those little varmints could infect me with Lyme disease. Safety matters, but nobody has yet figured out a way to make life 100% safe. So do the hard work, do the research, dig into the data, visit the neighborhoods you're considering, talk to the neighbors about their experience. And at the end of the day, when you think you've found a neighborhood that's right for you, move in and make it even better. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit the like or subscribe. If not, or if you have follow-up thoughts, leave those in the comments section below. I'll be sure to get back to you within the next week. And my number's on the screen. If you have any questions or if there's anything I can do for you, text or call at any time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.